Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I would like for us to come together at this time so we may commence this morning's session. Minister of Justice, Honorable Delroy Chuck, Minister of Legal, oh no, Minister Malahoo Fort is not here as yet. Minister of International Development, Canada, Honorable Harjit Sajjan, I hope I got that correct. Chief Justice of Jamaica, Honorable Mr. Brian Sykes. High Commissioner to Canada to Jamaica, Her Excellency Emina Todakovich. Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Paula Llewellyn. UNDP, that's the United Nations Development Program, Resident Representative, Mrs. Denise Antonio. I also see Ms. Barbara Scott of the PIOJ, Mr. Oliver Blake from the FCDO, Foreign Commonwealth Development Office. Other members of the Diplomatic Corps who are here present. Acting Chief Technical Director in the Ministry of Justice, Mrs. Kayla Swell-Mills, staff of the Ministry of Justice, staff of the Global Affairs Canada and of the UNDP, members of the media, other distinguished guests, viewers online. Good morning. I am Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, Permanent Secretary here at the Ministry of Justice and moderator for this morning's event. I am pleased that you have taken the time to join us on this very special occasion to launch the social justice program or project, which will also, you will hear, we refer to it as the So Just project. The ministry's mission is to facilitate effective access to justice and deliver quality justice services for all by establishing first-class justice systems and partnerships. With the commendable efforts of the hard-working team at the Ministry of Justice, we have been making significant progress through our Alternative Justice Services campaign to improve the public's access to justice services and information. To remind you, our alternative justice services include the Restorative Justice Program, Child Diversion, Victim Services, and Mediation. I am therefore pleased that we will have the funding support of the Canadian government through Global Affairs Canada and the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, as our implementing partner. The government, the Canadian government, and the Ministry of Justice have a rich history of partnership in the area of justice reform. The Justice Undertakings for Social Transformation, or the JUST project, was concluded in 2020, which initiated a number of significant reforms across the justice sector. It is therefore expected that the So Just project will expand on these achievements of the JUST project by bolstering our capacity to provide equitable access to justice among the most disadvantaged groups, to include women, children, and other persons, and persons with disabilities. At this time, I'm now going to invite the High Commissioner of Canada to Jamaica, Her Excellency Emina Todakovich, to introduce the Minister of International Development of Canada, the Honorable Harjit Sajjan, who will address us after Her Excellency's introduction. Please make her feel welcome.
Good morning, everyone. First, let me thank Mrs. Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, the Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Justice, acting as our moderator today, and who also got my last name right. So, frankly, that always gets points for me. Greetings, of course, to Minister Delroy Chuck, the Minister of Justice, the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs, as I'm sure is still stuck in traffic, Honourable Justice Brian Sykes, Paula Llewellyn, Director of Public Prosecutions, Ms. Antonio, UNDP Resident Representative, fellow members of the Diplomatic Corps, ladies and gentlemen, representatives of the media. It's always such a pleasure to be at the Ministry of Justice and at your events. And I just wanted to start by giving props to how much you've included Canada in the work that you've done in doing justice reform. Very much appreciated. And it's also such a pleasure to be at this event that represents a deepening of Canada's long-standing partnership with Jamaica's justice sector and with our implementing partner, the United Nations Development Program in Jamaica. Canada is honoured to be associated with the justice reform process in the Caribbean and remains committed to supporting stakeholders as they seek a more equitable, efficient, and responsive justice system for all. This year, as Canada celebrates 60 years of Canada-Jamaica development cooperation, it is a highlight to have our Minister of International Development here. And it is my privilege to introduce to you the Honourable Harjit Sajjan, Minister of International Development of Canada. It's a particular privilege, of course, because Minister Sajjan has made serving others a cornerstone of his life. He's a former detective with the Vancouver Police Department, a former lieutenant colonel with the British Columbia Regiment, Duke of Connaught's Own, and a longtime advocate for youth education and mentorship programs. For 11 years, Minister Sajjan was a member of the Vancouver Police Department and completed his career as a detective with the Gang Crime Unit. As a member of the British Columbia Regiment, he participated in 4 operational deployments, 1 to Bosnia and 3 to Afghanistan. It's such a pleasure to have him launching this project today, given his demonstrated commitment to advancing human security as a basic right, which is very much linked to the justice efforts being pursued in Jamaica. We all know that development is not possible without security and peace, and so I applaud once again your efforts. So please join me in welcoming Minister Sajjan to the podium to address us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mina, for the very kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a privilege to be here with all of you here today. I just want to acknowledge Mr. Chuck. Thank you for hosting the work that you do. Also the Honorable Marlene Malou Fort, and also Mr. Justice, Chief Justice Brian Sykes, representative from the UNDP. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great privilege to be back here today, and in Jamaica, I'm always so pleased. Like, everything you do is almost like a celebrated party. I'm going to be talking to our Minister of Justice, and when we do announcements, we're going to have a festive occasion like this. It is a real privilege for me to be back here in Jamaica, and it was here in 2017 where my family and I vacationed. And we get to learn about the culture, and it's a real privilege now for me to come back in my new responsibility as Minister of International Development to work so collaboratively with Jamaica, and that's why this announcement is so important today. And we also know that there is no equality without justice, and that there is no justice without equality. And that is why together we must strengthen institutions, systems, and legislations. We must advance the rights of women and girls, and we must improve outcomes for all groups that are disadvantaged. Now, building an effective, fair, equitable justice system for all is our best chance to realize the potential of each individual. Equitable access to justice is a means to overcome poverty. It provides people with and communities with a legal basis upon which to claim their rights and see justice served. Now, this is at the heart of Canada's feminist international assistance policy. This policy calls for increasing equitable access to a functioning justice system. And we work with partners across government and civil society to foster an inclusive and human rights-based approach in a strengthened justice system, and one that helps guarantee access and rights to marginalized communities, including women, girls, boys, and people with disabilities. And for many years, Canada has been the primary international development partner of the government of Jamaica in justice reform, and something that we are very proud of. We have supported a series of reform-related programs, all designed to advance a comprehensive and systematic approach to justice modernization. And we know that the UNDP has been a strong implementing partner for Canada under the Justice Undertaking for Social Transformation Project, or JIST. And with that, we also know it is well positioned to take on that role for this new 7-year So Just project. So today, we are pleased to continue our strong partnerships with the Government of Jamaica and UNDP by launching this new initiative for further justice reform in Jamaica. So I'm very pleased to announce that Canada will provide $12 million Canadian dollars for the So Just program. And this initiative is rooted in equitable human rights and a gender-responsive approach. It targets systematic change. It focuses on Jamaica's Ministry of Justice, its departments and agencies, the courts, and the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. It seeks to strengthen governance. And governance is inclusive when it effectively serves and engages all people and takes into account gender, and where services are accessible, accountable, and responsive to all members of society. It seeks to strengthen the rule of law. Now, lasting empowerment for all vulnerable groups will not be possible until they have full, equal protection under the law. And it seeks to strengthen access to justice. This is why I focus on vulnerable communities such as women, girls, boys, persons with disabilities, and LGBTQ2I groups. I have seen the kind of difference a project like this can make in the lives of young people and people in vulnerable situations or underserved communities. Now, during my time as a police officer in Vancouver, I saw up close the different paths that people are offered. And the reasons I say this is because I've seen firsthand the importance of social justice. And I know that the project will benefit the poorest and the most disadvantaged users of the justice services. And this project supports mediation, restorative justice, child diversion programs, and child justice coordination systems. This directly improves justice outcomes by reducing the backlog in courts. For women and girls in rural areas, the extension of access to legal aid systems has a direct impact. Now, even something as simple as updating the curriculum to include online technology streamlines the process for everyone. So Just contributes to improving a rights-based and gender-sensitive justice system. It seeks to achieve more equitable outcomes for all Jamaicans. It will help ensure gender equality results, and Canada remains committed to supporting Jamaica in its pursuit of justice reform. And as you know, our 2030 Sustainable Development Goals include number 16, promoting peaceful, just, and inclusive societies. And in this way, we can help unleash the power and vibrancy of our youth and support people in disadvantaged situations. And ultimately, we all look forward to a future in which all Jamaican citizens have increased trust and confidence in their justice system. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Minister Sajjan, and Your Excellency. I don't know if I'm going to call the name again, and Your Excellency. Okay, I don't know. The Ministry of Justice again extends our gratitude to the Canadian government for its investment in the Jamaican justice system. Another valued partner of the ministry is United Nations Development Program, UNDP, that has greatly assisted the ministry with the implementation of some of our major justice projects. At this time, the UNDP will share with us an overview of the So Just project as the implementing partners of the project. There's a video that is to be shown at this time. And after that, we will hear from Mrs. Denise Antonio regarding the implementation of the project. Are we ready with the video? Okay.
Honorable Delroy Chuck, Minister of Justice. Honorable Hajit Sajjan, Minister of International Development in Canada. Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, Chief Justice of Jamaica. Her Excellency Amina Tudakovic, High Commissioner of Canada to Jamaica. Ms. Grace Ann Stewart McFarlane, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Justice and our excellent moderator of this event. Ms. Paula Llewellyn, the Director of Public Prosecution. Ms. Barbara Scott, Deputy Director of Planning Institute of Jamaica. My fellow diplomatic colleagues and international friends, the government of Jamaica, the members of the media, other distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you and a happy new year. Today marks the continuation of Jamaica's ongoing pursuit to expand access to justice and to build a fair, equitable, and just society for all Jamaicans. Collectively, we aspire to advance this agenda through the Social Justice Project, which we're calling SoJust for short. This programmatic intervention fully aligns with Jamaica's Vision 2030 for a safe, cohesive, and just society, the Sustainable Development Goal 16 for peace, justice, and strong institutions, and the United Nations Development Programme Strategic Plan for 2022 to 2025 to build resilience through structural transformation. Together, we will ensure that no one is left behind. This includes women and girls, particularly survivors of sexual offenses, domestic violence, and other forms of gender-based violence. It would include men and boys, youth, the poor and uneducated, persons with disabilities, persons living in remote or rural locations, and persons affected by social stigma, to name just a few. If social justice is to become the new norm of the justice system, it must prioritize equity, access, participation, and rights for all, leaving no one behind. Jamaica has a solid foundation on which to build this culture of social justice. It has a strong constitutional and legislation foundation, including a Charter of Rights and Freedom embedded within the Constitution. It has laws and policies to protect women and children and other vulnerable groups from discrimination and gender-based violence. And of course, we know Jamaica's Vision 2030, a development plan that envisions a secure, cohesive, and just society. Buoyed by technical and financial support from the Government of Canada and the UN Development Program under the Initial Justice Undertaking for Social Transformation Program, which ran from 2011 to 2021, the Government of Jamaica has demonstrated an ambitious and extensive reform process guided by the Justice Reform Implementation Plan to tackle the institutional, technological, and infrastructural limitations to effective justice service delivery. While there are substantial improvements that we've seen through this investment, gaps continues to exist between the institutional transformation occurring within justice sector institutions and the lived experiences of the most vulnerable courts user. Through the SoJust project, we can address some of these limitations. So within 7 years, we aim to strengthen legislation, improve institutional effectiveness, and the delivery of justice services to advance the rights and equitable outcomes for all Jamaicans. This is a defining moment in Jamaica's bold and exemplary journey to strengthen its justice system. It calls for us to confront those social and cultural biases. It calls on us to systematically dismantle the barriers which deny too many vulnerable Jamaicans the right to access their constitutional guaranteed rights and freedoms. UNDP is your proud partner in this critical journey for social justice under the leadership of the Ministry of Justice and with funding from Global Affairs Canada. Our commitment to Jamaica's justice sector reform journey is unwavering because we believe it holds the power to unlocking Jamaica's development and economic growth potential while undermining the roots of poverty. UNDP looks forward to another mutually beneficial partnership with the Ministry of Justice. I also take this opportunity to express our profound and sincere appreciation to the Government of Canada for their continued investment in the justice sector. Your team, Minister and High Commissioner, have served and guided the success of today's distinction, of course led by Deborah. I leave with this quote: "A society without access to justice for everyone is a society where injustice can come to anyone." I'm confident that the work we start today will preserve the freedom of not just the vulnerable, but all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Antonio, and we do look forward to the continued collaboration with our respective teams. At this time, please allow me to pause and acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Marlene Malahou Fort, Minister of Constitutional and Legal Affairs, who has just joined us. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, Minister. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we want to acknowledge Honorable Mr. Justice Brian Sykes, who under his strategic leadership in the courts have been very bold and innovative in the delivery of the justice system as it operates in the courts there. These are underpinned by his stated mission to make the Jamaican justice system the benchmark for the Caribbean and the world. Honorable Chief Justice, I invite you at this time to make your remarks on behalf of the Judiciary. Please make him welcome.
Thank you, Madam Permanent Secretary. Good morning, all. Happy New Year to you. And may 2023 be better for all of us in all respects than 2022. And let me adopt the protocol established by Her Excellency and also by the Permanent Secretary. And so there'll be no need for me to repeat what has been said in that regard. And I wish to express my appreciation for the opportunity to share a few thoughts with you this morning. I wish to thank the Canadian government and the people of Canada for partnering with Jamaica and our judiciary in improving our delivery of legal services and the operation of our justice system. Just to say that all the programs embarked upon by the judiciary must be compatible with our strategic plan and core values and support our mission and vision. The Judiciary of Jamaica exists in a democracy itself, which itself is rooted in the Western liberal democratic principle of strong individual rights, constitutional rights, which are founded on the individual. And so in that sense, Canada and Jamaica have a shared common heritage. But this cooperation between our two countries is not an end in itself, but a means to an end, and that end being a just, cohesive, secure, and equitable society in which all persons have full opportunity to gain access to justice. It is important to note that no legal system properly functioning, that is, can guarantee any specific outcome in any given case or class of cases. The outcome in any given case is determined primarily by five things primarily: the substantive law, the procedural law, the law of evidence, the actual evidence placed before the court, submissions made by the parties, and the end result is determined by the particular judge when he or she brings her understanding of the law to bear on that particular case. So all that we do then, as far as the justice system is concerned, or the courts are concerned, geared towards providing adequate access so that persons can get the opportunity to persuade the court of their entitlements. So in our legal system, there's always a winner and a loser. There are really no draws. And so it is by respectful dialogue that we move forward. And each of us in this partnership has our own perspectives. And it is through dialogue conducted respectfully with a genuine desire of understanding that each other's perspectives can be understood and the best outcome achieved. So for example, in Jamaica we have a problem with high levels of interpersonal violence, in which many persons are victims regardless of their gender. So an interesting question is whether the problem of gender-based violence can be addressed without addressing the broader question and problem of violence. Because the objective fact is that most of the victims of violence are in fact men. Most of the perpetrators of violence are in fact men. And so when we talk about gender-based violence, while it is a subset which ought to be recognized, but there is the broader question of how we resolve disputes when they arise. And I would want to humbly suggest that we take that perspective into account, and this is what Professor Gale at the University of the West Indies has been speaking about for several years. It's almost like John the Baptist, a voice crying in the wilderness. So that's what I mean when I say we have respectful dialogue to understand the perspectives. And so I see this as an opportunity for having continued dialogue and understanding, bringing both of our perspectives to bear on these sensitive and important issues. And so it is my belief, not just expectation, that out of that the partnership will be successful. So may I thank you once again for being here, and to thank the Government of Canada, represented by the Minister and the High Commissioner, for their continued interest in the affairs of Jamaica and continuing to make it the home of not just the current Prime Minister, because you know it was the home away from home of the former Prime Minister, Mr. Pierre Trudeau, and we now have the current Prime Minister who frequents here. So he will be able to see the result of his investment here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Justice, for those words. We can always count on Chief to give us another perspective. A justice system that is efficient and effective, and one that is accessible to each Jamaican, has been the clarion call of our Minister of Justice, Honorable Delroy Chuck. Buoyed by his enthusiasm, the ministry has become more targeted and responsive to the needs of the public for a more modern and diverse suite of justice services. Minister Chuck, I'm going to invite you now to come to the podium and address us. Please make him welcome.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Grayson McFarlane, our Permanent Secretary and the moderator this morning's program, Honorable Harjit Sajjan, Minister of International Development in Canada, Her Excellency Mrs. Amina Tudakovic, my friend and colleague, Honorable Marlene Malulu Fort, Honorable Chief Justice Ryan Sykes, DPP Paula Loyland, Miss Paula Loyland, our Director of Public Prosecution, Ms. Denise Antonio, who represents UNDP, the resident representative here, other representatives of the Canadian delegation, FCDO, the Caribbean Regional Development Program, other members of UNDP, and members of the media. Today's event is indeed another unfolding signal in the official start of yet another major project with our international partners, and this morning from Canada. But may I also pay tribute and appreciation to our other international partners, the European Union, the United Kingdom government, the United States government, UNDP, UNICEF, IDB. Really, they have all contributed significantly to the work here in Jamaica. But this morning we focus on Canada, and Canada has been a significant partner in the achievements not only in the justice program, but across many areas of Jamaica. Certainly, the just concluded program, JUST. We achieved the 4 main pillars, that is equity, access, participation, and the promotion of rights. May I say, Minister, that we have achieved a lot, and we in the justice system have made significant progress, but we still have a far way to go, and I will elaborate on those shortly. But I want to say, Minister, that Jamaica is doing extremely well in spite of what persons may read or hear in the press. Certainly, Jamaica is proud of its democratic institutions and its commitment to democracy. I dare say, on any measure, Jamaica stands as one of the best, if not the best, in terms of democratic institutions. We certainly have a free press, and the press is a thorn in the side of every public official. And I have no doubt that the press ranks in the top 10 of any press across the world. We have one of the best electoral systems, where we change governments without any quarrel because we respect the electoral system. And therefore, there are many countries that want to adopt our electoral system. We certainly are very proud of our various achievements in sports, fastest men and women in the world, and they will carry on that tradition. But in other areas, Minister, Jamaica still has some way to go, even though we have made great advances in human development, health, shelter, social protection, education, our infrastructure, and certainly our judiciary, we can say, is not only independent, but we do have a separation of powers. As minister, I respect the judiciary, even though I criticize them at times, but I know my place. And what I can say is that the judiciary is not afraid to strike down laws that we pass in Parliament, and they do so on a regular basis. Our Charter of Rights, I must say, I was a member of the Constitutional Commission. We really adopt it significantly from the Canadian Bill of Rights. And that has allowed the judiciary to use many cases from Canada in the interpretation of our Charter of Rights. So we do have that close connection even on the laws with Canada. Jamaica's aim at this time, however, in the justice system is to ensure easy access to justice services and prompt response in the delivery of justice, And these are important features of any modern society. For peace and harmony, we want justice services to be readily available at every level and every corner of Jamaica. Yes, we're doing well, and I can say, to the credit of our Chief Justice, who for the last number of years have used statistics to be able to measure how well or how badly we're doing. So there's a statistical department at the court system, sponsored by the Ministry of Justice, to measure how well we're doing. And what I can say, Minister Sajjan, that in the parish courts, that's the lower courts, we are now less than 5% in backlog cases. And backlog is measured that the cases are tried within 24 months. We can also say that over 90% of the cases that are actually tried in the lower courts are tried within 12 months, which is a significant achievement. We do admit that there may be 1% of cases that still go beyond 24 months. And I know the Chief Justice's aim is to ensure that shortly that backlog, instead of being measured at 24 months, will be reduced to 15 months. Where we have a problem, and this is the challenge, is in the higher courts, where unfortunately cases are dragging on for too long. But we hope that that will soon be addressed. And we want at the Ministry of Justice to support the judiciary in ensuring that there are enough alternative justice programs across Jamaica that hopefully can ease the burden of our citizens feeling that to get justice, they have to go to court. At the moment, we have in excess of 70,000 cases going to the courts annually. So the courts are really burdened in dealing with these cases. But we're giving the court great support with alternative justice services for the courts to refer matters to restorative justice and to mediation, for young people to child diversion, and even for abused persons to victim services. We consider it very important that justice should be available to every citizen across Jamaica. And that is why we have put in place a justice center in every single parish. We now have 20 restorative justice centers that any citizen can appeal for assistance. We have 14 victim services across Jamaica. We have an office in every parish for child diversion. And we are now promoting and urging our citizens, rather than using abuses and violence to solve their problems, which oftentimes is what happens. And in truth, Minister, we are a very contentious society. And we try to solve problems on our own. And oftentimes we solve problems by abuses and violence. And now we're trying to change that culture, to ask our people, use the available services to resolve disputes and to settle conflicts rather than to take it on your own. So we have provided these justice centers across Jamaica, provide toll-free lines for persons to call to get information. And we also want to thank the Canadian government for providing us with additional buses so that citizens can understand their legal rights. So these buses are available to go into the hills and valleys and corners of Jamaica so that the people can have access to justice. So this program now, being launched, the social justice program, is really one where we expect strong communication so that every single citizen is made aware you have help, you can get help. Just use the services being provided by the Ministry of Justice and other state agencies. And in doing so, we hopefully can create a kinder and gentler society. We certainly can reduce deter, and prevent as many violent confrontation, which regrettably gives Jamaica a bad name. But we need, as a people, to utilize these services. The impact of our international partners must be felt in the years ahead, that we feel that Jamaica not only benefit, but that Jamaica is a place that everyone can feel is harmonious. So, Minister, we would like to thank you and the Canadian government for the strong support that you're giving us. Thank our international partners. But at the end of the day, Jamaica must respond by becoming a peaceful, safe, and secure society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister Chuck. And rest assured, sir, you have the support of the staff in the ministry to ensure that we play our part as well. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are really at the end of this morning's event. And I just want to thank you for taking the time out to join us to officially launch the Social Justice, So Just project in the ministry. And this marks yet another, it's another signal that we are responding to the needs of our citizens and providing improved access to justice. Our commitment to the Jamaican people and the strength of our partnerships towards this end have been clearly articulated by all our speakers. We now anticipate the positive impact of this project in the lives of our citizens. Please allow me also to, I'm not necessarily singling out anyone, but I must make special mention of Dr. Duperly Pinks, who was very instrumental in assisting us in putting this project together. I remember when the JUST program came to an end, and I said, is that the end of our partnership with Global Affairs? She said, no, we're going to work on something. And we are reaping the rewards today. Thank you, Dr. Pinks. And of course, Althea McBean, for the role that you played on the JUST program by championing the activities under that project. Thank you also for your contribution. And of course, I must thank all the teams that work together here at the Ministry of Justice, the team from Canada, UNDP, to really collaborate on this morning's event to make it a reality, pulling together. I know you were having your meetings and working out logistics and all of that. So thank you very much for all your efforts. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you all, and do have a good rest of the day.